I held a nicely wrapped gift in one hand and a sleek black envelope in the other as I stood at the event hall's entrance. Inside the envelope was the completely paid catering receipt and the present. Evelyn had insisted that wearing a bespoke diamond bracelet was necessary to keep up appearances at her closest friend Clara's birthday celebration. The venue was packed, with beautiful chandeliers casting a warm glow over the extravagant decor. A live feed captured every moment, while servers in immaculate uniforms balanced trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. In the corner, a quartet played gentle melodies that drifted through the air. Between clusters of designer-clad guests, laughter echoed, soft, polite, and practiced. Evelyn stood across the room, surrounded by a group of immaculately dressed women, each holding an elegant champagne flute. She was laughing brilliantly, her voice carrying across the hall. As I approached, she turned to face me, her expression shifting. I could see it in her eyes. I had just become her amusement. "Oh," she said, her voice laced with humor. "Look who finally decided to show up." The group turned, their faces displaying everything from mild curiosity to outright judgment. I forced a small smile. "I had to check with the caterer, just making sure everything was in order." Evelyn rolled her eyes and looked back at her friends. "This is what I deal with," she sighed, dramatically. "The man is obsessed with details, always working, never actually living." They laughed, and I felt my jaw clench. But I kept my expression neutral. I wasn't here to argue. I just wanted to make sure everything was set. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, please. As if anyone even noticed you were gone. Just relax for once and try to have fun. Or is that asking for too much?" I swallowed hard. I wanted to ask Evelyn if we could talk, but before I could, she cocked her head and sighed. "You always seem to prefer being somewhere else," she said, her grin mocking. Slowly but surely, just not here. Laughter rippled through the group again. "It's a marvel I even managed to drag you out of your little tech dungeon," she continued, smirking. "Normally, you're glued to that laptop, hiding from the world, like some sort of hermit." The smirks turned to laughter. Evelyn laughed along with them. "My own wife." Then she struck the final blow. "You'll always be a loser," she said, still smiling. "For years, I ignored the little jabs, the rejections, the constant reminders that in her world, I was barely adequate, only accepted because of what I provided." I looked around the room at Evelyn, at her friends, at the guests sipping champagne that I had paid for, and suddenly I realized something. I took a slow breath, exhaled, and turned. I left. I walked straight past the catering manager, who was waiting for final payment confirmation. Once outside, I got into my own car, a modest, practical vehicle. Evelyn loved to mock and drove off. My phone buzzed twice. I ignored it. By the time I finally checked, I had 29 missed calls. The messages were frantic. Clara. "What the hell did you do?" Evelyn's mother. "I'm not sure what's going on, but you need to fix this immediately." I nearly laughed. Then I saw something unexpected. A message from Amelia. Amelia. "I'm sorry about tonight." Amelia was one of the few friends of Evelyn's that I actually respected. Unlike the others, she hesitated before typing back. When she did, her response came immediately. I leaned back, staring at the TV. Oh, now Amelia's paying for something she shouldn't have done. Evelyn wanted a show, and she got one. I turned off my phone and settled in. The real fallout would start tomorrow. I sat with my phone face down on the coffee table, watching the wall clock tick. 20 minutes had passed since I left the party. 20 minutes since Evelyn's meticulously planned evening began to unravel, and still, no knock at my door. No one had come. Not her mother. Not a friend. No one sent to pull me back before people noticed the unpaid bills, the missing caterers, the gaping hole in Evelyn's perfect evening. Instead, my phone began to vibrate again. One call, two, three, back-to-back attacks. I smirked. I flipped my phone over. Missed calls. It rattled against the hardwood table like a heartbeat. More texts. Desperate ones. Clara. "Where are you? The food isn't here." Evelyn's mother. "You better not be doing something stupid." I rolled my eyes. And of course another message from Evelyn. But I didn't answer. For the first time in years, I let it all happen without rushing to fix it. By morning, the storm had passed, but the wreckage remained. Missed calls. 62 unread messages. I scrolled through them lazily. Evelyn. "We need to talk." Clara. "You're acting like a child." Evelyn's mother. "I'm very disappointed in you. Fix this." "Nope, not fixing a damn thing. For years I cleaned up Evelyn's messes, but last night she had to deal with one all on her own. And I knew she had spent the entire night scrambling, apologizing, making excuses, doing damage control, the grand event that was supposed to show off her wealth and status. It had become a disaster. By 7:42 a.m., the first call of the day came. Evelyn. I watched my phone vibrate against the nightstand, and I let it ring. A minute later, a text. I took my time, stretching, making coffee, before I finally answered. "Evelyn," I said calmly. "You ruined everything," she snapped. I took a sip of my coffee. "Good morning to you, too. Don't play games with me," she hissed. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? In front of everyone?" "Did I do that?" I asked, amused. "Or did you do that to yourself?" Silence. Then a shift. Her voice softened. The fake concern. The coaxing tone. "I didn't mean what I said last night. You know how I get after a few drinks." I laughed. "So that's the excuse? You weren't cruel, just drunk?" "You overreacted like a child," she snapped. "You left me to deal with everything alone." "You mean how you embarrassed me? In front of your friends? Laughed at me? Called me a loser?" Again, silence. Finally, she muttered, "I need you to fix this." I cut her off. Not my problem, and for the first time ever, I hung up on her. By lunchtime, Evelyn stopped calling, but the internet had started talking. Her Instagram? A mess. Evelyn. Some people don't know how to handle a real woman. You find out who your real friends are when things fall apart. The comments were brutal. Wait, did Evelyn really run out of food at her own party? She couldn't pay the caterer, but she was flexing about the event hall? It was even better than I imagined. And then, at 3 p.m., a message from Amelia. And that caught my attention. She was crying, tears flowing down her face, her hands shaking. I whispered, "This isn't over." I left, my thoughts racing with the next move, not for her, but for myself. The trap had been triggered according to my design, but tonight's game was far from over. It was only the beginning. As soon as I left that dining room tomorrow, the reckoning would begin. Behind Sophia's flimsy reasons and crocodile tears, I felt an odd sense of serenity. This wasn't over, not by a wide margin, but I was in charge now, no longer on the defensive. Every betrayal they had planned was about to unfold. Every secret Liam believed he had buried. Every lie she had told. They thought I would play the part of the distraught husband, moping in self-pity. But they were mistaken. They never knew me at all. That evening, as I sat at my desk, gazing at the pile of proof I had gathered, bank statements, pictures, emails, I knew this wasn't simply about revenge. It was about precision. If I was going to ruin their lives, I would do it carefully, systematically, piece by piece. I began with Liam. He had always relied on his charm, believing he could talk his way out of anything. But charm doesn't hold up against cold, hard facts. My first target was our business partnership. I combed through our contracts, searching for weak points. What he didn't know was that, for years, I had been subtly strengthening my 60% ownership of the company. He loved to act as though we were equals, but in reality, I had been in control all along. The next day, I arranged a meeting with our legal team. Liam arrived late, as usual, flashing his self-assured smile. "Thanks for making the time, Liam," I said, my tone casual. He frowned, clearly puzzled. "What's this about?" I slid a stack of documents across the table. His face went pale. "You can't do this," he stammered. "But I can," I replied smoothly, tapping a clause in our partnership agreement. Provision 14.2, ethical transgressions. Adultery with your business partner's spouse qualifies, don't you think? He opened his mouth to argue, but I wasn't finished. "You've also been skimming profits. Theft, Liam. Another violation." By the end of that meeting, Liam was no longer a partner in our company. He stormed out whispering threats, but I didn't care. He was gone, and I was free of his shadow. Next came Sophia. She was more subtle than Liam, skilled at playing the victim, but I had something she never expected: foresight. Over the next few days, I quietly moved my finances. I closed our joint accounts, cut off her credit cards, transferred my money into a private fund, even contacted the mortgage lender to refinance the house in my name alone. She didn't realize what had happened until she tried to use her credit card at her favorite boutique. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness when she called me. "Nathan, there's a problem with the credit card. Do you know what's going on?" I feigned confusion. That's odd. I'll look into it." 2 days later, another call. This time, there was a hint of panic in her voice. "Nathan, our bank. Account, something's wrong. The app says the funds are frozen." I barely hid my smirk. "Oh yeah, I had to make some changes, but don't worry, it's all being handled." The silence on the other end told me she knew something was up, but she wasn't ready to face me. Not yet. A week later, she received a package, a plain manila envelope. Inside, divorce papers, and a handwritten note. When she called me, her voice was shaking. "Nathan, what is this? Are you serious?" "Divorce papers," I said evenly. "Did you really think you could marry Liam behind my back and I'd just let it slide?" She started to protest, but I cut her off. "You made your choices, Sophia. Now you live with them." I hung up, relishing the silence on the other end. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity, ensuring that neither Liam nor Sophia ever forgot the cost of their betrayal. And for the first time in years, Sophia looked genuinely afraid.